The clock hit 6, and the door groaned shut behind me, sealing away another week I'd rather forget. Friday night. The city's noise dulled to a background hum, and for a fleeting moment, I felt the kind of quiet that always comes before trouble. I dropped my keys on the counter, kicked off my shoes, and froze. The file sat there on the desk like a bad memory that refused to fade. I'd been ignoring it for weeks, maybe months. Thick, dog-eared, and radiating a weight that made my shoulders sag just looking at it. I didn't want to open it. Not tonight, not ever. But deep down, I knew it was inevitable. Just not now, not yet. Instead, the glow of the CRT in the corner called my name, a relic of better days, when the lines between games and reality weren't so blurred. It begged for something old, something classic, something to fit the mood. I dug through the stack of cases and discs like a miner searching for gold. The pile kept growing, and my patience wore thinner than my excuses. I slumped into the chair, the weight of the week pressing down harder than I wanted to admit. My eyes drifted back to the file. I hated how it sat there, smug, knowing this was the night I'd finally crack it open. I reached for it reluctantly, each second dragging like a bad dream. The day had finally come. I didn't think it'd be today, but as I flipped it open, the familiar words hit me like a gut punch, and the memories came flooding back. Max Payne. The name was a bullet fired straight from the past, and tonight, there was no dodging it.
Plaza. Repeat, an assault in progress. It's a war zone down here. 1085 dispatcher, need additional units. Additional units now. Officer in danger. Officer in danger.
10-5, please repeat. 10-5, all units, emergency. Officer in danger, Acer Plaza, repeat. Acer Plaza, all units.
They were all dead. The final gunshot was an exclamation mark to everything that had led to this point. I released my finger from the trigger.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Backlog Battle. I'm Tennessee, and for the fourth game in our series, we're going to be taking a look at Max Payne 1 on the PC. Released in 2001, Max Payne is a third-person shooter game developed by Remedy Entertainment and then later ported to the Xbox and PlayStation by Rockstar Games. The game follows Max Payne, a former New York City police detective out for revenge after the loss of his family in the middle of the worst snowstorm New York City has ever seen. Throughout the night, he unravels the mystery of those behind the slayings, hunting down organized crime bosses, teaming up with the Russian mafia, and making his way into the Acer pharmaceutical company, all while evading the police. The story is told in a noir-style graphic novel from Max Payne's point of view. Voiced by James Perry McCaffrey, the voiceover dialogue mixed with pictures paints a gritty story about revenge by a man with nothing to lose. The story was the highlight of the game for the most part, with the beginning and ending of each level containing more of the graphic novel. Interacting with things like a radio or TV would give you a news broadcast that would update you on the state of the world, and periodic interactions between Max and other characters further explain the story. While cohesive and interesting as the story was, there were a few sections that felt a little too far out there for me to take seriously. The Ragnarok level has you running through a gothic-themed nightclub, hunting down a mob boss named Jack Lapino, who ends up being a deity-worshipping fanatic that believes he's in the end times of Ragnarok from Norse mythology. This just felt far-fetched even for a game.
I've tasted the devil's green blood. It runs in my veins. I've seen beyond a world of skin, the architecture of blood and bow and arrow. Death is coming! She is coming, and hell follows with her. This is the twilight winter. I am ready to be her son. Her time is now, and all who stand in her way must die!
I realized they were trying to further introduce the Norse mythology into the script, as many of the names play a role, but this level just felt weird and out of place, with the Jack Lapino screaming and the setting filling off from everything else. The level design was linear with a few puzzles thrown in. There were a few times I got lost and couldn't find the way forward for a few minutes, like this part where you need to cross a bridge. I looked around the level for a few minutes trying to find the controls or some way to lower the bridge, but couldn't figure it out. I ended up paying attention to the posters on the wall that clearly indicated I needed to hit the block out from behind the wheel of this trailer, which resulted in the trailer rolling down the hill, smashing into the bridge, and opening the way. These types of interactive moments are spread throughout the game and add an action movie feel. You'll be dodging attacks from helicopters, bursting through walls with gas tanks, or knocking over pillars to climb up to different levels of the map. At one point, you'll be running through a restaurant that's catching fire around you while trying to escape. The problem with this, as well as the combat in general, is that you don't know what's the right path to take, and if you choose the wrong one, you have to restart. The game uses a quick save feature, which you'll quickly realize is about the only way you're going to make it through the game. Encountering a group of enemies for the first time is ultimately a death sentence, as you're almost always going to be caught by surprise and the enemies deal an absurd amount of damage. There were points in my playthrough where I'd trigger a cutscene and then immediately die to an enemy rushing in the door as the scene ends before I even had time to react. It was never game breaking, as the next time around I knew it was coming, but that's how the game ends up playing out. Enter a room for the first time and see what's there, enter the room for a second time and actually beat it. Considering the game allows you to slow down time and do slow-mo jump shots means that you can have some really fun encounters, but the feeling of being an awesome, unstoppable revenge fest gets negated by the constant reloads. Add in the fact that the health restoration is marginal results in a difficulty that isn't hard, but requires reloading. This for me took away from the story as a whole. I guess in a sense it does give you that feeling of getting your butt whooped, which is what Max Payne is clearly enduring, but having to play through the same parts twice, just remember the placement of enemies gets repetitive and takes away from that action feel. The graphics of the game were actually pretty good for 2001. This may be due to the fact that I used an HD texture repack, not something I would have done if it hadn't been for the fact that in order to get the game to run at all in a playable state, I had to download additional files not included in the Steam version. The Steam version of the game results in a buggy mess that won't even play properly and crashes. This was pretty surprising. From what I can gather, it's due to the game not supporting modern processors, but if the company is still selling the game, they should fix it. It's absurd this game is still being sold in an unplayable state by a company that could fix the issue, but instead leaves it up to the community. Launching the game and immediately being met with corrupt JPEG data errors and having to resort to downloading files from unofficial sources isn't the way you should be introduced to this series. It's pretty easy to fix if you look at the community hub, but why are the people who are earning profit off this game not the ones who are taxed with making it playable? It seems backwards and really left a bad taste in my mouth. The campaign is pretty short, taking me around 10 hours to beat. I wonder how much of that I could have cut off in a second playthrough without watching cutscenes or cutting down on or loading saves. The game does unlock 2 additional game modes once complete, one being a harder difficulty and the other a time trial mode where you need to beat each level within a time limit. All in all, Max Payne is an adrenaline-filled over-the-top shooter that plays like an old action movie. The story keeps the game progressing, and while it does have its flaws, it's held up pretty well over the last 24 years. I probably won't be playing through it again, but it was a fun game to beat over a weekend, and one I'd been curious about for a long time. Well, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment which is your favorite game in the series. Appreciate you sticking around to the end, and we'll see you in the next one.